I am a survivor of suicide. It began with a phone call letting me know that my son's best friend had chosen to take his own life. And that was in February, and within 3 months of that, even though we knew my son was at risk and we put him in counseling and were very aware that it was a possibility, my 15-year-old son also chose to end his life. And this is my son, Jay, at different times here. You know, just a fun day at the creek here, and that was his favorite little dog, Frankie. This was taken just days before he died at 15. This is his 8th grade graduation. So I've survived what every parent dreads and what I really consider the worst possible thing that can happen. That was 8th grade, the last grade that he ever graduated. You know, for a lot of years I kind of stayed stuck on that thought. I hated graduations of any kind, and you know, that thought that he was not ever going to graduate from college or get married and all of that, and I had a hard time going to graduations and weddings and that sort of thing for a long time. Losing a child is really one of those things that can shake your emotional, mental, and spiritual health like nothing else can. And getting through that, I really had days when, I guess the best way to describe it would be to say that I felt like my heart was betraying me to continue to beat, and like you think, why do I have to keep breathing? It just hurts so much and so deeply to even be alive. And it's very different than a physical injury. If you end up in a wheelchair or you're a paraplegic, people know that something happened to you. But with an emotional injury like that, it's not like people are going to stop and open the door for you. It's very different trying to survive that. And you can't possibly understand it unless you've been there and tried to survive that kind of emotional devastation. It's really something to have survived and be able to say that I came through it with my faith intact, that I came through it with my mental health intact, and that spiritual battle that you have to fight for your emotional survival and your mental health. It has everything to do with, you have to not isolate, you have to get out there. You know, there's some prejudice in Christian circles at times against counseling. And yet those same good folks won't tell you just to pray when you've broken your arm. And you don't, you know, prayer is huge, but God sometimes answers those prayers by leading you to the right counselor or the right therapist. You know, a friend of mine around therapy tables used to say there's only 2 times that you need to go to church. That's when you really want to go to church and when you really don't want to go to church. Sometimes those times when you don't want to walk through the doors of the church are the most critically, spiritually important times that you can. I had to get over the fact that I might cry in public, because I did a lot of crying in public. And, you know, I just had to say, you know, my church family is that place that I can be spiritually honest. And if I'm not doing well today, I don't have to say I'm fine. I can say not great and go sit down in my seat and weep through the service if that's what I need to do. What better place where people are going to know you're hurting and you're going to get all kinds of prayer support that you might not even know about that week. And you know, I just found in my church family so much love and support. It was just, you know, phenomenal. One of the key things is don't run away from your feelings. Feel your feelings. That may sound like a weird thing to say, but you know, at times I would write a letter to my son and go to the graveyard. I know that he's not there, but it was a focus place for sorrow for me. And I would go there and read the letter and weep for a while. And that would allow my depression to lift to the point I could function for the rest of that week. And in my mind, that's how I did not end up on long-term sleeping pills or antidepressants. And in fact, I didn't fortunately need to resort to those at all. You know, one of the ways that God has, one of the surprises that He had ahead for me was I never dreamed that I would be a mom again. I'm 56 years old, and about 3 years ago, I left the courtroom with a newborn in my arms. Yeah, she's the best, huh? You know, I talked about in the wake of losing a son to suicide, how you can drown in guilt and you can go, what did I do wrong? And the truth is, when you start believing the truth, that as a 15-year-old, he made a mistake that he couldn't take back. And that's the way, so often I've known other suicide survivors, and the minute they woke up after they attempted and they weren't dead, they were just so glad to still be alive. And you know, that still, the suicide brings with it that tremendous weight of guilt that I should have been a better parent. If I'd have been a better mom, this wouldn't have happened. And that's not always the truth. And the way God healed that for me, and I never dreamed that this would be how He would get that through my head, is to let me be a mom again, all over again. You know, I wake my daughter up and she gets all the loves and snuggles and kisses, and I just pour my heart and life into her, and watching her be so, you know, well-grounded and happy is one of the only ways that God could ever get through to my heart. You know, Joe, you were a good parent, you are a good person, and it wasn't about that at all. And so I just think God's brought me on a journey of understanding and healing that, you know, I hope I can just share with some other people. If you know, for those, and people will struggle with guilt when it's not a suicide. A child gets killed in an accident and they think, oh, if I would have driven a different direction that day, or if we would have done this or that, and you can stay stuck there. And just allow Satan to rob you of joy and, you know, stay stuck in that place of believing the lies instead of letting God finally bring the truth through to your heart and allow you to be healed and find joy in your life again.